Delegation is the management skill that most directly determines a leader's ceiling. Not strategy, not vision, not technical expertise. Delegation. Because there is a hard limit to what any single person can do in a working day, and leaders who have not mastered delegation reach that limit long before their teams reach theirs. They become the bottleneck. They become the approval gate. They become the reason talented people leave for organizations where they are trusted to do the work they were hired to do. The irony is that most managers who under-delegate believe they are being responsible. They think they are maintaining quality, protecting relationships, or managing risk. What they are actually doing is accumulating work that should belong to someone else while simultaneously denying their team the development opportunities that build capability and engagement. Delegation is not offloading. Done correctly, it is one of the most powerful development tools a leader has. The first milestone is understanding the delegation ladder, a framework for matching the level of delegation to the individual's capability and confidence on a specific task. There are 6 levels. At the bottom, the leader decides and informs, appropriate for irreversible decisions with significant downside risk. Moving up, the leader decides after consultation, appropriate when others have relevant expertise. In the middle, the leader and the team member decide together. Then, the team member decides and informs the leader before acting. Then, the team member decides and informs after acting. At the top, full delegation. The team member has complete ownership, no required check-in unless they choose to seek input. The most common delegation failure is assigning work at a level above the individual's current capability without providing the scaffolding for success, then experiencing a poor result and concluding, "It is easier to do it myself." That conclusion is the trap. The variable was not the person's potential. It was the match between their capability and the delegation level, and the support provided in the gap. The second milestone is the delegation conversation, the structured handoff that turns a task transfer into a genuine development opportunity. A well-executed delegation conversation covers 5 elements. First, the outcome. What specific result should be achieved, and how will success be measured? Not the process, the outcome. Over-specifying the process is a form of micromanagement, wearing the costume of delegation. Second, the authority. What decisions is this person authorized to make independently, and what requires escalation? This conversation prevents the most common frustration in delegation, the team member who feels empowered but then encounters a decision they are not sure they can make. Third, the resources. What information, tools, relationships, or budget does the person need to succeed? Fourth, the check-in cadence. How frequently will progress be reviewed, and who initiates those conversations? Fifth, the context. Why is this work important? Knowing the significance of a task to the organization is not a nice addition to the delegation conversation. It is directly correlated with task ownership and effort quality. The third milestone is delegating with trust, which is harder than it sounds because it requires managers to tolerate an approach different from their own. The primary reason managers take work back after delegating it is not that the work is going wrong. It is that it is going differently than the manager would do it. Different is not wrong. Different is different. Unless the outcome is at risk, the manager's job after delegation is to support and observe, not to redirect, micromanage, or quietly take the work back in increments. Taking work back communicates one thing with perfect clarity: the delegation was not real. And the next time an opportunity arises, the team member will invest less because they have learned the ownership was temporary. Here is the trap that prevents even well-intentioned leaders from delegating effectively. They delegate the work, but not the authority. They assign the project and then require approval on decisions that are squarely within the project's scope. This is the worst of both worlds. The manager carries the cognitive load of approval without doing the work, and the team member carries the work without the authority. It is slower than if the manager had done it themselves, and it delivers none of the development benefits of genuine delegation. Authority must accompany accountability. Every time. Leaders who master delegation do not have less control. They have more. more leverage, more team capability, more time for high-impact leadership work, and more developed people who can operate with increasing independence. The most capable teams in any organization are built by leaders who give work away, systematically and skillfully. Your go-do. Make a list of every task you completed in the last week. Identify the 3 tasks that someone else on your team could have done, with appropriate preparation. Choose one. Plan the delegation conversation using the 5 elements above. Then have it. Delegation and emotional intelligence are deeply intertwined, because trusting people with meaningful work requires understanding what motivates them and how they experience responsibility. The emotional intelligence video in this series picks up exactly where this one leaves off. Research from the Center for Creative Leadership and the Harvard Business Review on what causes managers to derail, to fail after achieving significant organizational advancement, consistently identifies one of the most ironic failure modes in leadership. The very skills that produced early career success become derailers at more senior levels. The technical expert who rose through expertise struggles when the primary job becomes creating conditions for others to exercise expertise. The high achiever who outperformed peers through personal execution struggles when the primary measure becomes team output rather than individual output. Delegation is the specific capability transition that marks this shift. And leaders who fail to make it stall or derail at exactly the moment their organizational responsibility demands it most. There is a practical tool that helps managers make this transition more consciously: the time audit. Tracking for 1 week how every hour of the working day is spent, which activities, which decisions, which communications, and then categorizing each item as either "only I can do this" or "someone else on my team could do this with appropriate preparation," reveals the delegation landscape with specificity. Most managers who conduct this audit are surprised by how much of their work falls into the second category. That surprise is the data, and the data points directly at the development investment that would most expand the manager's capacity to operate at the level their role requires. The emotional dimension of delegation also deserves acknowledgement. For many managers, particularly those promoted from high-performing individual contributor roles, delegating important work triggers a real experience of loss. The loss of the satisfaction that comes from doing excellent technical work. This is normal and worth naming explicitly. The transition from personal performance to team performance as the primary source of professional satisfaction is not instantaneous, and managers who have not made it emotionally often reclaim delegated work subconsciously, undermining a delegation practice they are intellectually committed to. Naming this dynamic and building in alternative sources of professional satisfaction through strategic leadership work makes the transition more sustainable. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, hit like and subscribe to our channel for more practical insights. And if you're ready to go further, check out the next video on your screen.